Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Janae Lee with the Institute of Child Nutrition, and I would like to welcome you to the May 2025 CICN webinar, Reducing Sodium with Scratch Cooking in School Meals. During today's webinar, all attendees will be muted. There will be time reserved for questions at the end of today's presentation. If you have a question, please use the Q&A box on your Zoom panel to type your question there. We will try to get to as many questions as we can, but some questions may not get answered during the live today. After the webinar ends, a link to complete a short survey will appear. Please complete that survey as ICN appreciates your feedback. Individuals who have registered will receive a follow-up email that contains a webinar certificate of attendance, a recording link of this webinar available on iLearn, which is ICN online learning platform, and a link to the evaluation survey in case you missed the pop-up link. Due to the nature of this webinar, the slide deck will not be shared with our attendees today, but it will be available in video format on our online learning platform. And you can access all of the resources for free on the CICN website. The Culinary Institute of Child Nutrition is a part of the Institute of Child Nutrition, the only federally funded national center dedicated to applied research education and training and technical assistance for child nutrition programs. The ICN, or the CICN, was launched in 2018 by the Institute of Child Nutrition and the USDA Food and Nutrition Service to assist in meeting the unique culinary training, technical assistance, and professional development needs of school culinary operators. Please visit the Culinary Institute of Child Nutrition online at vicn.org/CICN to access our full catalog of training, as well as tools and resources to support the goals for your school nutrition program and school culinary operations. The topics covered in today's webinar fall under the key areas 1 and 2, nutrition and operations, and meet the USDA Professional Standards Code 1100 menu planning and 2100 food production. Today's webinar will share some practical techniques for replacing high sodium ingredients with fresh, flavorful alternatives, as well as you'll hear from Power School District 30 in Montana on how they successfully incorporated natural flavor enhancers into their recipes through easy substitutions and additions, including their step-by-step approach that can be integrated into existing menus. This webinar will also highlight current CICN resources that support child nutrition operators in incorporating sodium reduction best practices in their daily operations in school kitchens. The learning objectives for today's webinar are to recognize CICN sodium reduction resources that provide guidance for child nutrition operators to implement sodium reduction best practices and strategies in their food service operations. You will also be able to recall a step-by-step approach to reducing sodium in existing recipes while maintaining flavor, and identify practical techniques to incorporate herbs, spices, and other flavor enhancers into recipes through easy substitutions and additions. We're happy to have you all here today, and now I would like to introduce our panelists for today's session. So first we have Laura Takes, who is a CPA and a graduate from Gonzaga University with a bachelor's degree in business administration and arts. For the past 8 years, she has served as the food service director of Power School District 30 in Power, Montana, which has received Healthy Meals Incentives for Innovation in Nutrition Education and Smaller Rural School Food Authority Lunch Trailblazer Award. Laura strives to serve high-quality scratch-made food to the students in her district. She believes great food comes from fresh local ingredients, including school and community gardens. Laura sources beef and wheat within 4 miles of the school. She expands her students' palates by offering items grown locally in Montana, such as beets, carrots, bison, zucchini, and lentils in her breakfast and lunch meals. She believes that knowledge is power and shares her knowledge, experiences, and recipes with those who are interested. Laura was integral in creating Power Hands, on Harvest Farm to School team by applying for the Montana Farm to School Institute. Currently, she is instrumental in selecting the educational food item for Harvest of the Month. Laura is supported by her husband, Ben, and 3 children. And when Laura is not following her children around to sporting and musical events, she enjoys reading, playing games, and baking cookies or other treats for her family and friends. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us today. And we also have our very own Dr. Erica Cooper, who is an education and training specialist and joined the Institute of Child Nutrition in 2020. Primarily, she develops resources that require nutrition knowledge and expertise. Erica is passionate about ensuring all children have access to nutritious food. She has over 10 years of experience in child nutrition, including several years with a state agency. In RDN, Erica also earned a PhD and MPH in nutritional sciences from the University of Michigan. In her spare time, Erica enjoys landscaping, gardening, and enjoying the outdoors with her family. So I want to thank our panelists for joining us today. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Laura to get us going.
Unmute myself. Okay. Oops, wrong button. Okay, I hope, can everybody see my screen now?
Yes, let's start from the beginning, Laura.
Oh, I'm not at the end. Ha! We'll start over again. Just a second.
No worries.
So you guys all know that this is not my strongest point. So, all right, let's see, here we go. Does that work now?
Yeah, that looks great.
Okay. Thank you. Before we get started, I wanted just to let you know who I am. We had that great introduction, but I want to let you know I'm a ordinary person who loves to cook. Before I took this job over 8 years ago, I had no nutritional experience or cooking besides what I did for my family, who were aged 3 to 6 at the time. The school nutrition director before me left me her recipe book, which was a huge blessing and helped me navigate into the school nutrition arena. Each day for the first day, for the first 3 weeks, I called her and talked about what I was going to do, how I was going to accomplish it. And then I took it from there after that. As my introduction says, I believe great food comes from fresh local ingredients. And I've been integral in getting our Hands on Harvest Farm to School program started. I enjoy sharing knowledge, recipes, trials, and my trials and struggles. And I want to let you know that a lot of my inspiration comes from the people around me, providing me suggestions, and some of it comes from out of necessity for ingredients that I have. Okay, there we go. Pirate Galley and crew. We are the Power Pirates, so I'm going to talk about our school right now. We're at 1 school versus 3 schools. According to our our state agency, we have 3 schools, but we only actually live in 1 building. So we have 1 building, and then this is my staff and me. I'm here in the red, and then I have Becky. She's been here for 2 years, and she works 6 hours. And then I have Linda over here in the green, red and green. She's been here for 17 or 18 years, and she's my salad bar lady. My kitchen size is 24 feet by 21.5 feet. So that encompasses my 3 compartment sink. That encompasses the big wall behind me with the oven on it, my refrigerators, my ovens, and our steam table. So there's not a lot of room or shelf space to work with. Our student population right now, since we are a small rural school, we only have 103 students. On average, I serve about 40 to 45 breakfasts regularly. Sometimes it drops down to 30. Sometimes it bumps up to 50 to 55. But on average, we're about 40 to 45. And then lunch hangs out around about 90 to 100 meals. And that does include adults also. Our student participation, we are a closed campus, so the students can't go anywhere. So those that aren't eating are actually packing a sack lunch and eating in the lunchroom with us. The sad thing about our staff participation, it has dropped drastically over the last couple of years, mainly because I've had to increase the prices to match what the USDA requires that we charge. So um, I used to have over 75% of the staff eat regularly, and now it's down to probably 20 to 25%. I wanted to give you our journey to lowering sodium, and part of this is just going to be me going through what I did when I started to where I am now, and the changes that I've made. Um, as I said at the beginning, I had no nutritional experience, so my goal was to keep everyone alive. I would say my goal was this year not to kill anybody. So it was really a little stressful for me when I got without that extra experience. I did have my Serve Safe certificate by the time I started, but I was still a little nervous. Um, so when I started the year with a 3-week cycle menu, and I repeated it for the first 3 weeks. I mean, first 3 sessions. So I did 9 weeks of it. And then I gradually started adding in um, my previous cook's recipes. And this, I talked about the cookbook that she gave me. This is the cookbook that she had. That's what I used, that's what I was given, and that's what I started with. So after I had gone through the cycle menu and added things and started feeling more comfortable about my cooking, I got rid of the cycle menu. I ditched it. And I'm not saying that's the best thing to do, because now I'm considering maybe going back and finding a cycle menu, but I haven't done that in a while. Since that beginning, and when COVID started, I started with a cycle menu then, just to make sure we could get through with it. But the main thing I did that year was only focus on one thing at a time. So at the beginning, I focused on getting some meals under my belt that I could make without difficulty. And then the next step I took, taking my small steps, is I added a few meals throughout the months, and then I got myself up to where I had most of her recipes in there. In years 2 to 6, I got a couple slides on this. My first goal in year 2 was to make rolls. That was something that terrified me. I'd never made a massive batch of rolls, and I wanted to do it. So I just had to take off a step and go, and I did. It took me a few tries to get it right, and a little bit, and I took some training on how to make whole grain items. And so that was that was probably my first goal that in year 2. And as we've been going along, then some of the other goals that we had is I wanted to develop relationships with local producers to obtain local ingredients. And so I worked around, and you'll hear some more stories about that in the later in the slide, of getting local into the school. And then once I had some of these ingredients, I needed to develop relationships within the school to process the local ingredients. So in this slide here, you see two people. Um, they are processing my butternut squash that I was able to purchase that was local, and they processed it for me to use in uh, my pumpkin bread and things like that. Um, Continued on in years 2 to 6, I was identifying new recipes to try and standardize for school production. And some of those came out of necessity. I had a whole bunch of USDA chicken. I'm like, what am I going to do here? So I started looking for recipes um, to utilize that chicken that I had on hand. Um, I'm always open to accepting recipe ideas from others. I have had staff that have given me many good ideas. We just what we do, I'm not saying everybody needs to do this, but what we do is sometimes we search the internet, find what we have, and then I do the math and standardize the recipe for what we want. That's how a certain amount of my recipes have come, and then I brought some from my house too. The other thing we do is we focus on scratch cooking, and that's good. You're going to see this a lot through my through this whole presentation, because that's one of the best ways that you can control control the sodium. You can control what you're going to add by doing the scratch cooking. And here in this picture here, we have one of our students, and they processed beets for me, and I have beet puree out of them. And then I've also made pickled beets out of them. And then I have purple pirate potatoes that I do with that. Um, so then in years 7 to 8, these are the last 2 years, I had applied for the Healthy Meals Incentive Grant and became an awardee for that. And through this time frame, um, I well, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm a person that's a rule follower. I want to ask permission and not ask for forgiveness. So I decided I really needed to dig in and understand the new federal guidelines and work hard to implement them. So in year 7 and 8, I did that, and then I also, in this process, at being a awardee for the Healthy Meals Incentive Program, I needed to apply. I was required to apply for a Healthy Meals Incentive Award. So I was looking at it and thinking, well, what am I going to apply for? And I was trying to differentiate between maybe a meal makeover or innovation in school preparedness. So this here is one of our um, lunches on the tray here. You can see this, and this is haystacks, which is with local stuff, and a local cantaloupe. And this cinnamon roll here is made with from the bread dough with local grains. And these were tomatoes that we grew in the school garden. And this is some local corn that we were able to purchase. So that's on this slide. And then the other thing is I'm still accepting recipe ideas from others. That to me is crucial. I like to have a large variety of options that I can offer the kids. And the more things I get in, the better I can, if we can try them. If it doesn't work, we can try something else. So continuing on in year 7 to 8, I focused on scratch cooking and speed scratch cooking using those USDA chickens and stuff like that. I've asked for advice from state officials. Um, I started reviewing my recipes and looking for substitutions of where my high sodium items are. And right now, I'm in the process of looking for nutrition software to help my nutrition analysis easier, not just for the sodium, but also for sugars and fats and calories and all those things that we are required um, to feed how we're properly required to feed our kids. And this is a another just meal. We have wheat chili and local cornbread here, and local pineapple and not pineapple, uh, watermelon cantaloupe there. Okay. So now I want to talk about some of the operational changes here. And this is the big one, sourcing fresh ingredients. And this so what I have, I'm going to tell you a couple stories. When I first started in that first and second year when I was here, we didn't have anything local. We do in our town happen to have a honey company, and it's only a couple blocks from town, and somebody donated 6 5-pound bought jugs, cases of honey, no, one case of honey, 30 pounds of honey in 6 containers. And I was like, wow, that's cool. We got some local stuff. So with that, I started looking around and thinking, what else do we have local around us? And I know there was a school that's 40 miles away that was getting local beef donated to them. And I'm like, well, let's try that. That didn't work. My idea was let's try to get some donated, and it didn't work, and then nobody wanted to donate to us. And then my husband says, well, maybe you should look at something else because we don't have as much beef around us. Maybe you should look, what do we have around us? And we have a whole bunch of grain fields around us. So with that, I decided, okay, I'm going to get wheat, grind it, and I'm going to make my own flour. And that will be the closest local that we have. So I shared that with a farmer around me. He said, if you can find another farmer to donate half a grain grinder, I'll pay for the other half. In which he gave me the nod and said, get your husband to do it. So I talked to them, and they both said yes. So I then had a grain grinder, and with that, this is kind of the start of it. And then I went back and I'm like, we're going to have local beef. So I couldn't get it donated. So what I did in the whole process is I had called around to 20 different people asking for donations, and nobody donated. But then with that I said, or we could purchase it. And finally, one of the 20 people called me back, and this is like the 4th or 5th year we've purchased animals from them, and we have had their local beef, and they're only 4 miles from town from us. And then with our farm to school program, and last year, not this year, we had the local foods to school grant. I was able to expand all my local purchases that I was getting. And a producer in your town says, hey, I have eggs. I want to sell you my eggs. I'm like, okay, I'll take your eggs as long as you go through the process, get licensed, and do the tests, and then I can buy your eggs. And he did that. So now I'm getting local eggs. Oops, I don't want to go forward yet. The other thing with my sourcing local, you need to look around and look at your food co-ops and food hubs right now and see if there's a delivery service. So last year when I had that local food to school grant, um, I didn't have many options for local, so I had to look for a food for a co-op, and the nearest co-op was 150 miles away from me. But they have a delivery truck going to Great Falls, which is 25 miles away from me. So we worked out that I could order from them. The delivery truck would take it to Great Falls, and then I went ahead and drove to Great Falls and picked up my local ingredients and brought them back. Um, it's important enough for me to do that. To me, I'm willing to take those 25 miles, pick up that stuff. Another thing with for operational changes, if you look at your DoD Fresh, you can get a lot of fresh produce there, and you can use that in what you're doing. Um, the next thing for operational changes is analyzing recipes. And so I have started analyzing some recipes where I thought I had high sodium. Now, this is very labor intensive. So I'm just being honest with you, I'm at the very beginning stages of analyzing my recipe. I probably still have 90% of my recipe book to go through, but this is an operational change that I'm working on. Staff training. I started with myself by taking some sodium reduction training classes, and then I worked with my staff on getting a knife skills class in here. And we've been working on how to process these fresh ingredients for those that we don't get processed out in our family consumer sciences story. And then I'm still being, open to suggestions and find ways to implement them. It's really highly important just to be open and see what's there. Um, just a second, there we go. Sodium challenges. One of my biggest challenge is not knowing the sodium levels in each dish that I make from scratch. As I said, I'm only maybe 10% the way done with some of mine, and the bad part is with some of those, then I write it down, figure it out, but I don't have them filed anywhere. So then I have to do some of them over again when I want to. Another big challenge is heat and serve entrees and side dishes tend to be much higher in sodium than what you can do outside without that. So if you have heat and served entrees, then that's a sodium challenge. Prepackaged sauces and seasonings. Even once I started trying to go low sodium, the availability of good tasting items for pastes and broths, was very difficult to deal with. And then some of this stuff is staff willingness. A little bit this one I talked about when we were trying to implement our farm to school program. I had asked the staff if they wanted to participate, and it wasn't the staff that you saw in the picture. It was just Linda was there, but Becky wasn't. And they said, "No, we don't have any desire to do farm to school." And I'm like, "Okay." So I had to go beyond the kitchen to work on figuring out my farm to school team. But as the one thing I'm going to have, my staff willingness once I bring them their recipes and I've analyzed them, I'm going to say I am expecting pushback and say, no, I don't want to take my seasonings out that I'm using because it tastes good. So then I need to, this is still going to be a challenge into the future. So overcoming some sodium challenges, we have increased or modified our scratch cooking while monitoring our added sodium to it. Mainly this, I've done this with some orange chicken, sweet and sour sauce, some mashed potatoes. I've replaced, and then here we come. Oops. We've looked for lower sodium substitutes, mainly for use in our scratch cooking. And that's going to be low sodium beef broth, low sodium chicken broth, and some of them I used ketchup in, and I had to switch to a low sodium ketchup. We've replaced some of our proteins with raw proteins. I do pork loins, and sometimes I'll take pork roast. We'll have them chopped up, and we'll do sweet and sour pork out of them. And then we've created our own taco seasoning. And when I say we've created it, I made it once. It's we tried it, and like, I think next time we can use less chili powder. So I'm going to try that again. I'm not always the best person at trying things out before I implement it to the students, but we're working with that. One of the other things to overcome sodium is offering fresh fruits and vegetables without stuff. So here we have our salad bar, and this is our salad bar here. We have our salad here, and sometimes we have local lettuce grown from our own garden in there. But we have lentil crunchers here, which is a local item, and we have some cheese. And normally we have a USDA protein of turkey or ham. Today we have olives on it, and then you have all these fresh vegetables here. We do not vary our vegetables. You always have peas, carrots, celery, tomatoes, cauliflower, broccoli, cucumbers, and peppers. And the students are they don't need the change. They order the same thing day after day. Over here we have our side salad, and this happens to be a caramel apple salad where we use fresh apples. Um, and then we also try to have this side salad here tries to be 2 fruits, 2 vegetables, and a cottage cheese or a pudding or something like that. Sometimes we throw that dessert in there, but maybe once every 2 to 3 months. Identifying lower sodium foods. You can talk with your vendors or use their websites. But the vendors always seem to be very willing to help out. But when I checked the website and I typed in low sodium for my vendor, they have 210 items. However, they only stock 16 of them. And the rest of them are direct shipping and have had added expenses to it. So that's a challenge also. But of those of those 16, 3 of them were gravy mixes, 6 were soup bases, 1 was ketchup, 2 of them were potatoes, 3 were proteins, and 1 was V8. So I actually ended up ordering the ketchup, but it took them over a month to show up because it takes a special order, but it didn't have direct shipping costs onto it. During my training sessions, I learned about low sodium and reduced sodium. Low sodium was 140 milligrams or less per serving, and reduced sodium was 25% or less than normal sodium in a regular product. I knew one of my high sodium items was soy sauce. So I searched the internet and found this one called Thailand. What was it called? Best of Thailand Premium Soy Sauce. It didn't meet the low sodium, but it only had 720 milligrams of sodium in 1 tablespoon rather than the normal 920 milligrams or reduced sodium of 590 milligrams. So this is how I significantly reduced the sodium in many of my Asian dishes by finding this soy sauce. Is it cheap? No. It costs $16 for 44 ounces. But for me, this is one of the one of the concessions I'm going to make. I'm going to make these things from scratch. I'm going to have to buy some higher priced ingredients to meet what I need to do. Student acceptance. You've heard me talk about in the past accepting ideas from new people. So I regularly am trying new recipes throughout the year with Harvest of the Month. So with that, my students are used to trying new things. And sometimes they like them, sometimes they don't. But it's the fact that they've been doing it for the last 8 years, probably 7, because the first year I didn't make anything new. I just tried to implement the stuff the teacher did, the lady before me did, just to get myself to be a cook. But it's this repetition. I really want to let you know that the more they do it, the more they're going to be accepting of it. And just get started with it and stick with it. Oops, I don't want to go forward yet. I had one more story to tell you. A year after I started, there was a lady 40 miles away that had all the free beef that was given to her, took over for her school, and they were on probably mainly processed food the whole time. And she said, I am going to change this. So she applied for the job. At 60 years old, she applied for the job, got the job, and started making everything from scratch. And she started, and she would go to and look at the garbage, and there would be so much stuff thrown away. It was disheartening, but it had to do with the change process. They weren't used to it. So 5 years down the road, she goes to the garbage now. It's not there. She hasn't changed her cooking at all. Their palates have changed. They've become accustomed to it. Those juniors and those freshmen through juniors left, and they've got the new kids coming in, and they're able to adjust. It's going to take a while. I don't think sodium reduction will be accepted, and in except for as you get these new students, when you're giving them less sodium, they're used to it at that point in time, and they're not going to balk as much. Um, Student feedback. I try to talk to the students after we try a new dish and vote. Um, with our harvest of the month, we have a tried it, liked it, or loved it. I try to use this with the high school. I don't get the chance to talk to them. I do not have them as a captive audience. They come in, they eat, they leave, and go to the gym and play basketball as soon as they possibly can. So sometimes I have students leaving before before my 50 students, the last of my 50 students are already done getting through the line. And it only takes us 16 minutes to get through the line on a long day. So then I try to have a sign and they can vote, and I might get half of them to vote. With the elementary, I have a lot easier. They're stuck in that lunchroom until they're released, and once they come, they're there for 30 minutes. So I'll go out and ask them, "What did you guys think today?" And I try to do the tried it, liked it, and loved it. And I should work harder at it, but a lot of the kids just say thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. That's the way they work. So I can work at it a little harder, but sometimes I just want to meet them on their level where they want to be. Um, Sometimes for getting the high school that they don't vote, I have to rely on the FCS teacher and the students that she gets in her class. They'll talk to her and tell them what they think. I do have the high school as a captive audience. 30 seconds a day when I go do lunch count. That's my way of connecting with the students to let them know that I know who they are, they know who I am. Um, but I don't really want to take up that much time from the teachers. I just want to pop in and be there. There is also another option for me that I haven't done is lunchroom announcements every day. If they made them over the loudspeaker, I could, say, we want to know your feedback and have them give it to me. Listen to what the students say as they come through the line. I've had a couple of times I've made a stroganoff. You're going to see this recipe later. And the first time I made it, I was like, I don't think I have enough meat in here. So I had some mushrooms also. I put the mushrooms in, and now I get, does this have mushrooms in it? And if it has mushroom in it, sometimes the people will not take it. So I try to listen to what they're asking at that point in time and modify it if I can. Like that was just a specific with the mushroom, but if they're giving you things about the sodium, that would be one way to look at it also. Sometimes I make soup or chili and I ask, do you want a bowl, a full bowl, a half bowl, or no bowl? And there are some kids that take no bowls, and I just need to pay attention. And if I have a significant portion of no bowls, then I'm gonna have to look at do I need to modify the recipe, or is it just something the kids don't like and maybe switch it out with something else. And then don't be afraid to check the garbage. Actually, I never want to check the garbage because, I could take it personally, but I need to because if they don't like what I'm cooking, it's still important for me to know that maybe we should change something up. Um, this will tell you things that you're doing well or not doing well when these kids don't talk to you themselves. And just because there's a lot of garbage doesn't mean you can't make it better. It just shows where you have your work cut out for you. Um, oh, the senior lunch menu. Every year I offer the seniors an opportunity to select their favorite meals in the month of April. The seniors picked the entire lunch menu for April. Um, this year, it was mainly all scratch items that I picked, and it was like, oh my goodness, these are all the toughest recipes I have. So that's a good thing, to have that, and the only student feedback is these are the seniors, they're on their way out the door, but you're getting the feedback anyway at that way. Um, the next, what do we do with it? So, as I've got this information, however I got it, I try to incorporate what they say. Um, I can review the recipe and see where or how we reduced the sodium or where or how we did other things to the recipe in and of itself and see if there's wiggle room. Do I have enough room that I could add some more sodium or do I need to look for other things such as more herbs or spices or lemon juice or vinegar or things like that? Okay, so Power Public School was awarded some Healthy Meals Incentive Awards. My first one was the Small and Rural Lunch Trailblazer Award, which is got for lowering sodium, which is how we're here now. The second one I got was an innovation of nutrition education. As you know, and when I talked at the beginning in year 7, 8, I was going to do for the meal makeover or the innovation in school preparation. I probably could have applied for those other ones also because I've done a meal makeover, I've done things, but I just applied for these two and went on. But I want to let you know that the benefits for this are great. Um, you get recognition for your hard work with these, and you can publicize that. You do receive free training. They have the Healthy Meals Incentive Summit where you get recognized at the summit for your award that you've done. They pay for your travel, they pay for your hotel, they pay for your meals, and you get, you can have up to, I think, 12 to 13 or 14 hours of training, which covers the training that I need here in Montana for the whole time. And then you have great networking opportunities. You can meet people and go on for and continue and learn from these people out here. And I just want to know, this could be you at one of your 7 Healthy Meals Incentive Recognition Awards. If you apply for one of the categories, if you apply before June 30th, you will get the opportunity to go to the Healthy Meals Incentive Summit. So go out there and see if you can get it done. Okay, so now I'm going to switch into some of my recipes. This is my ham and cheese roll-ups, but the main point is that I'm using this recipe because I use it from my bread dough. So here is my recipe for my bread dough. And in it, if I use 6.5 pounds of flour, it'll make 147 1.25 ounce rolls. And it uses 2 tablespoons of salt, which gives you 14,000 milligrams of sodium. And that gives you, each roll has 96 milligrams of sodium. And that makes it comparable when you compare what I could buy as a rolled dough. I've got 96 versus 100, which is 140 milligrams per roll. That gives me 45 milligram savings right there. So that's one way. That is one thing that I have, that one way. And I just want you to know, normally I make these as 1 ounce rolls. So it makes 181 ounce rolls. But for my analysis here, I just compared it to a 1.25 ounce roll. The next one we have is bison or beef stroganoff. And this was going to be my meal makeover. This here we have, oops, I want to go back. Oops, back. I wanted to have, just to tell you about this. This here is a scone, a blueberry scone that we make from scratch, and we made the potatoes from scratch. This is one of our first tries of making potatoes from scratch, and we left the peels on. We've now started peeling the potatoes because the kids don't eat them as much with the peels in the potatoes. And this is a Waldorf salad that we have on our salad bar. That was our specialty salad for the day, and here is our salad there. And then, so here's my bison or beef stroganoff. So I start with 25 pounds of bison. And what I have, or beef, in that there's 9,200 milligrams of sodium in the stew, just the meat itself. The cream of celery soup has 24,750 milligrams of sodium, and the Worcestershire sauce has 2,000 milligrams of sodium in it. The sour cream has 2,500. So this gives me a total of 38,000 milligrams of sodium for 244 1 ounce servings. So in there, that's 158 milligrams of sodium in a 1 ounce serving, and 316 milligrams of sodium in a 1 ounce serving. So this recipe, I used to use meatballs in, and this was my meal makeover that I was thinking about doing. And 15 pounds of meatballs themselves has 24,000 milligrams of sodium. So just by switching from the processed protein to the raw protein, we took out 16,000 milligrams of sodium, which makes this dish a lot more palatable. I'm looking at it right now. I mean, when I made this slide, I'm like, well, I could still do better if I needed to. I could work on that cream of celery soup, which I actually use cream of chicken now, but neither here nor there. I could do that and substitute and make a something from scratch, a sauce, a white sauce, a thickener that way, and that could still reduce my sodium if I need to. So individually, meatballs have 63 more milligrams of sodium in a 1 ounce serving than the stew meat does, which is still 112 ounces in a 2 ounce serving, which we're required to offer to high school. So I mean, that's just significant right there. You're taking out up to 1,000. I mean, excuse me, 100 milligrams of sodium. So the next one, this is my red velvet waffles, and red velvet waffles are made from beets. So this is my batter over here, and that is the only color that is from beets. There's no red food coloring in that whatsoever. So with my red velvet waffles, I have this is my recipe. So it says a 1 ounce waffle has 200 milligrams of sodium versus my old waffle, which was 1.8 ounces, and had 277 milligrams. I did find, as I look now, just to see what's out there, I found a new waffle that's 1.3 ounces with 115 milligrams of sodium. So yes, this is less. So I could skip all my hard work, which sometimes is a lot of hard work, and go and try this new waffle. And if it tastes good, I might switch it out and actually use it sometimes. But one of the things I'm probably not going to do, because this is red velvet, I'm using the beets to get to the students to let them know that those are out there. The next one I have is orange chicken. I didn't have any pictures of my orange chicken. So if we look at my orange chicken, here we have USDA chicken. So with that, it's 28 milligrams or 56 and 2 ounces. And the sauce itself, when I use that reduced sodium soy sauce, I have 45 milligrams and 90 milligrams. So a store-bought orange sauce has 140 milligrams, and compared to the 90 that I have in my recipe here. And then we did a Chipotle burrito bowl. This is something the kids really love. My picture has pork when I made it from scratch, but normally I use USDA chicken and the fajita chicken. And here you can see, this is my analysis. And that is kind of high for 1 ounces and 2 ounces of sodium, but the rest of the stuff is pretty close. And this is what's on my meal plate here, where I made my roasted corn salsa from scratch, used the lemon juice, and the recipe called for salt, and I just didn't put any in. And the pico de gallo, didn't put any salt in that. So we're gonna, if we have time, do we have time, Janae? That we're gonna open the a chat for a quick moment, and I want you to look at my picture and see what I'm missing. Is there anything I'm missing on here in my analysis? Because there is a few things that I can see right now that I didn't include in my analysis, and I did that on purpose, just so. Whoops! I just showed it to you. Let's see if I can unshow it to you. There you go. There you go. If you can see what I was missing. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, and this is not my strong point. I can't actually, there we go. I can't see what's in the chat. So anyway, I just wanted you guys to look at my picture and see what I'm missing.
Hey, Laura, it looks like folks are, they made some suggestions.
Okay.
Some folks are saying grain, rice, and bread, and one person said jalapenos.
Oh,
But
said what?
we're getting a lot of rice, grain, and bread.
Okay. Well, the rice is right here. The rice is in the middle of my thing. So there's my grains. But I was looking just for the sodium, and I did. Now we'll hit the button here. And what I have is I don't have salad dressing on my salad. So as soon as you put the salad dressing on the salad, that's going to change your sodium. I have my pickled jalapeno here, and that's going to change my sodium. And I had the cheese on the salad. So, but yes, no, this meal does have the required ingredients in it for a complete school meal. Now we're going to have to close the chat because I'm talking too much and I need to hurry up and get done so that we can finish Dr. Cooper can present too. So we made some seasoning blends. I have taco seasoning, which I talked about, that I'm going to modify and make better. Poultry seasoning, Italian seasoning. The mainly reason those don't normally have sodium in them, but I have somebody who has a sage allergy. So I got rid of the sage and made my own seasonings there. So really quick tips and tricks, analyzing your recipe. Look at your recipe, what's highly processed, start there. The protein, can you use a raw instead of a processed protein? And let me tell you, yes, it is a lot more work, but it will help you reduce that sodium down. Salt, can you take it out? The only place I do not take any salt out is in my yeast breads. I was told that they need the salt to make the yeast spreads work. Um, I do have a few recipes that use canned soups. Is there a low sodium version that you can use, or can you make it from scratch or substitute a white sauce? White sauces or sauces and dressings. Look at those. That's where I've found a lot of sodium reduction is if I make the sauce from scratch. So thank you for joining me for Power's journey to lowering sodium in our school meals. I'm always willing to share my knowledge and recipes. Feel free to reach out to me. There's my email address. And I think I don't have time to share my story. So you'll just have to, hopefully they'll put this out for you guys to see, or you can come back online. And now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Cooper.
All right, thank you, Laura, for sharing all of your experience with sodium reduction, as well as all of your great tips. I learned a lot. And actually, a lot of the tips that you shared are in a lot of the resources now that I would like to share with everyone that we have available on the ICN website. So a few years ago, the ICN and USDA teamed up to create the Shaking It Up, Small Changes Lead to Big Flavors series of 17 worksheets and online courses designed to support all of your sodium reduction efforts across all areas of school food service. You can access these resources at theicn.org/shaking-it-up or by scanning the provided QR code. So just to kind of briefly introduce you to the webpage, the Shaking Up webpage categorizes the worksheets and courses by topic area, making it simple to locate the resources you're looking for. The categories are sodium reduction in school meals, procuring lower sodium products, student acceptance of new lower sodium menu items, using speed scratch food preparation to reduce sodium, as well as culinary approaches to reduce sodium. So you can simply click on the plus sign next to the worksheets and or online courses to view the different subtopics offered. And in addition to the worksheets and courses, the other resources section further down on the page provides a variety of culinary tools to support your efforts, including CICN's herbs and spices posters, which provide guidance on using dried spices, herbs, fresh herbs, and spice blends, along with tips on purchasing, proper use, and storage. There are also iBites videos, which are short animated clips that deliver quick tips on enhancing flavors with herbs and spices in your program, as well as other CICN webinars that are tailored to support your sodium reduction efforts. You can bet that this webinar will be posted there in a short while. So all of the resources on the Shaking It Up landing page are designed to support your sodium reduction initiatives, and we encourage you to explore them and integrate the strategies into your programs. So incorporating more scratch-made recipes into your program is an excellent strategy for reducing sodium in your daily and weekly menus, and Laura touched on this a lot. For consistent results and quality, it's crucial to use standardized recipes. So ICN's Child Nutrition Recipe Box, or CNRB, is a valuable resource that brings together all of USDA's standardized recipes for child nutrition programs. Many of you have probably used it to search for recipes by meal program, ingredients, or even sodium content. Today, I'm excited to share some new features that will make using the CNRB even more rewarding. So while you can access the recipe box by scanning the QR code on the screen, I highly recommend using a computer or tablet for a more seamless or user-friendly experience. And if it's been a while since your last visit to the CNRB, there are two new features I want to highlight. So first, in the, lower right-hand corner of the screen, we have the CICN Culinary Tips Corner. When you visit the Culinary Tips Corner page, you'll find a new culinary lesson and a short video featuring seasonal topics each month. It's an excellent resource for discovering fresh ideas and finding inspiration for your kitchen. You can also browse past topics with easy access to their respective lessons and videos. And then next, I'd like to highlight the various recipe collections available. So thanks to Team Nutrition grants, we've also added a collection of state agency developed recipes. Each of these recipes was taste tested by students and received an approval rating of at least 85%. Additionally, there's a collection of new and revised USDA standardized recipes to try out. Lastly, we offer celebration themed recipes organized by season and month, with the current spring collection featuring recipes for Earth Day, Garden Month, Cinco de Mayo, and Egg Month. We hope these recipes enhance your experience. We hope these new features enhance your experience with the CNRB and help you find even more ways to serve nutritious and tasty meals. And finally, to support scratch-based cooking, the CICN offers a variety of helpful resources, including the CICN training series for hands-on learning, the USDA recipe standardization guide for school nutrition programs, grab-and-go recipes, and the culturally inclusive recipes toolkit. So these tools, along with others available for various food preparation needs, are designed to help program operators create healthy, scratch-based meals while enhancing meal quality. So please visit the icn.org/CICN to explore these resources and learn more.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I just want to give another hand and a round of applause to our panelists today. Thank you so much, Laura, for kind of sharing your experience from the beginning to where you are now with your scratch cooking and lowering sodium. I thought that you did a really great job with kind of putting it all out there, including the challenges that you all are currently going through. And so, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you also, Dr. Cooper, for just giving an overview of the resources that we currently have on reducing sodium. So at this time, we'll go ahead and transition over to the Q&A box to see what we have. And I have it open here, and we have a question from Kimberly, who asked about serving vegetables in your school garden, Laura. Would you mind sharing what safety protocols that you all go through to ensure that your vegetables are safe for serving?
Yeah, what I did is when I did this, I talked to my school sanitarian, not a school, excuse me, our county sanitarian, and asked, what do we need to do to use these items? And the biggest thing was, do we have a safe water source? So we made sure, I mean, it's on a public water system, so that was fine. And then we talked about what is in the dirt, and this, the garden that I have has been a garden for over 50 years. And so it was a garden. And so then we just had to make sure that we didn't add any inappropriate stuff to the dirt as we planted our plants in there. When we get the stuff from the garden, we go and we or the family consumer sciences students will then clean it. So we'll scrub the carrots. We'll do what we need to do to that, as you would normally receive produce that you would need to do to make it servable to your students. And we just make sure that we water it properly and we don't add stuff like manure to the ground or anything like that.
No, that's awesome. Thank you for kind of going into details with that. And I just think it's awesome anyways that you guys are having a garden where you can serve a lot of those things in your meals. So thank you for sharing that. We also had a question about do you provide taste tests? And I know you mentioned you allow the students to vote on new meals. Are you all planning to kind of transition to a more structured way of doing that so you can actually kind of get an idea on the number of votes? How do you go about structuring that to kind of get a good idea on whether students are liking a meal or you need to kind of switch something up? Can you go in more detail about that?
Well, honestly, I need to do a better job at that. I will be honest there. It's just because I do not have that captive audience with the high school. I haven't gone through and figured out the best way to do it. Well, I know how many students I serve when I do the voting, and A lot of times I just get like 0.5%. So I need to work on that. I do not have a good structured thing yet unless I make an announcement and say, okay, everybody needs to vote today. When I do that, make that announcement when I do lunch count in the morning and then have them vote. I still don't think I would get 100% of those high school students voting. They're just kind of in their own world and wanting to do their own thing. I'm sorry, I don't have a great answer for that. I need to work harder at figuring out how to do it better. It's more just really asking them to letting them know that it's really important that I
Mhm.
get their feedback. That would be probably my best advice to myself at this point in time is communicating to them that I need to know what they think.
No, that's awesome. And I know you talked a bit about, the times that you can kind of squeeze in there to get time with them. Your connection can sort of help to kind of bridge that gap with them, allowing you to know their feedback on certain things too. So I do want to acknowledge
And
that.
one thing I want to say is the other day I made, which is probably not a low sodium dish, everybody. I'm going to qualify that right now. I made buffalo chicken pizza. So I have to look to figure out how I'm going to make that low sodium if I can. But I made that pizza. And when I went and did lunch count for the high school, I asked, okay, how many people want this pizza? So I knew I made enough and not too much.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be exactly spot on. I had 2 pizzas that I needed to make for the 6th through the 12th grade. And it turned out, I mean, I have taken the time and asked that, and then um, I try to be respectful of those teachers so I don't take up much of their time.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, and kind of taking everybody back to incorporating Laura and her team incorporate that feedback as well. So they do go about doing that. And Bianca actually asked that question and she said, "Thank you for saying forgiveness over permission." So I didn't want to skip saying that. Okay, we have a question from Lola who asks, "Is there a difference when making meals?" I'm sorry, that's so Lola, your question, you mentioned something about home daycare and schooling. So we do have a CATFP webinar series that we offer. And so there are significant differences with making meals for daycare versus schooling. So I do want to kind of answer that. And Louise had a question. Are there certain spices that you use to replace salt? And I know you're talking about the seasonings that you all have. Can you go a little bit more into that?
What? I'm gonna go with my gravies. When I started making beef gravy from scratch and chicken gravy from scratch, instead of using the packages, which I still have a few left right back behind me, um, which I save just in case I run out of time and can't do it. But what I do is with the beef, I added, what is the word I want to use? I added basil. I added basil in that with the beef. And then I used the low sodium and then I added Worcestershire sauce, which does have some. So I used a less amount of that. So I still added a little more sodium to it that way with the Worcestershire sauce, but I added basil and I added the pepper to that. And then when I do my gravy with chicken, I do the pepper and I'm just a garlic person. So garlic goes in most everything I make, but I added that and then I didn't add any Worcestershire sauce to that. So I do I'm working on making my gravies better. They're not perfect yet, so they're not standardized yet. Um, so those are the main things I do. When I do my Mexican dishes, I do add my lemon juice and lime juice I add that to the pico. My roasted corn salsa, I add the lime and the cilantro, fresh cilantro to that, and I do peppers with those also.
Mhm.
Um, so those are the kind of the things I've done. I haven't, as I said, I'm only like 10% into this. I have 90% to go, so I don't have all of my recipes done, but I'll try to pick the basic ones. The basic spices I have are my basil, oregano, cumin, chili powder. I guess when I do my refried beans, I add lime, I add the garlic and the chili powder, and then I add lemon juice to that. I do add a little bit of salt, sodium, because I add 1 can of Rotel to number 10 can of USDA beans. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to come back to Lola's question. Dr. Cooper, I saw that you provided a really great response to Lola's question. Do you mind sharing that live with our attendees today?
Yeah, sure. I just want to let her know that most standardized recipes for daycare home are standardized for 6 children, whereas most school recipes are standardized for 50 to 100 students, 50 or 100 students at a time. So there are variations in that, but because they're standardized for different amounts of children or students, the recipes are going to be slightly different.
Awesome. Yes, and Lola, we do have several resources on our website where you can kind of look at standardized recipes for daycare homes. And so we do have some questions that we probably can't get to. We're showing 3 o'clock on our end. I have some last minute announcements to give out before we close today. But we will also try to get the link to the video up on the e-learning portal, and I did add the summit link to the chat, so you will be able to find that there. And now for the announcements. So we will have a webinar coming up on Thursday, June 5th on reducing sugar in breakfast items. So please stay tuned for the registration information on that to become available on the website or through the learning portal. You will find that there. And then as a reminder, you can access all the resources for free on the CICN website, including this webinar and others on the iLearn portal. So please check that out. And you can also find us on social media. We do a lot of announcing of new resources and things on our socials, so give us a follow there. And finally, I want to say that I want to thank our presenters again. Sorry that we didn't have enough time to kind of dig deep into the last minute questions that we had, but we hope to see you on the next one, and I hope you have a great day.